What in John Wayne Gacy's name is up, my loser friends? Today I want to go into a brief history of Lil Peep and his contribution to the world of alternative music. Gustav Elijah Orr was an emo rapper, alternative rap pioneer. He was one of the very first people in the subgenre to really start getting traction and getting noticed. He blended perfectly, seamlessly between rap, lo-fi, pop, punk, and alternative rock, and kind of just made his own new genre out of it. And I wouldn't really consider him to be a rapper from my personal opinion. Don't at me. Because he really sang more and had better hooks and choruses and all that shit. He sang more than he rapped, in my opinion. The same with Juice WRLD and Post Malone, but my friend, that is a story for a different day. His lyrics focused around depression, drug addiction, and an overall just kind of like alternative themes that you wouldn't really hear from like a normal top 40s rapper. But Peep was born in Allentown, Pennsylvania, which is north of Philadelphia by about an hour and west of New York City by about 2 hours. I'm also pretty sure that they have a substantial amount of Amish folk in Allentown, which is probably why Peep used to consistently mention the Amish in his songs. Goth Boy Clique. You get it? Because the Amish wear black and goths wear black. This is kind of unrelated, but not really, because we're going over his history. But Peep's grandfather was actually a world-renowned historian named John Womack, who studied primarily Latin American history and the Mexican Civil War. Anyway, Peep started releasing music under the name Trap Goose in 2013 on a little-known website called SoundCloud. He changed his name to Lil Peep fairly quickly, mentioning in an interview that it was something his mom used to call him when he was a baby. That's sad. Peep actually had a dual citizenship in both the USA and Sweden, which makes a lot of sense because his name, Gustav Orr, is as Swedish as it gets, yeah. Eventually in 2015, one of his songs, Star Shopping, went viral, and he began experiencing more and more success with the follow-up releases of Lil Peep Part 1 and Live Forever later that year. Not long after, he had a couple other big releases with Crybaby, Hellboy, California Girls, and Vertigo. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. It seems like he had a rapid ascent to stardom. It's not often that a SoundCloud artist has a big hit, then actually consistently follows it up with hit after hit after hit like Peep did. And you'd be damn right. Peep was an anomaly from the SoundCloud era. He managed to cultivate a cult following over the course of a 2-year period. Everything he released after Star Shopping ended up doing major numbers in the underground and even the mainstream circuit. Following his online blow-up, he started doing live shows. His very first live performance was in Tucson, Arizona with members of the Schema Posse. And I've mentioned Schema Posse in some of my other videos, but if you're unaware, Schema Posse was an artist collective started by Jay Green. He had 40-plus members over the 2-year tenure that it was out doing its thing, and it was fairly prominent over that 2-year period from 2015 to 2017. The two most notable members of Schema Posse are, of course, Lil Peep and Ghostmane, who I've also done a video about a few months back. If you want to see my Ghostmane video, it's back in the history. Anyway, Peep performed his first live show on February 12th, 2016, and shortly after he went on tour with Fat Nick and Smoke Perp. Almost exactly a year following that, he went on his first world tour of sorts, doing shows in Russia, Western Europe, and then circling back to the U.S. to finish off the tour. He was experiencing untold success in many ways. He was mentioned in the news. YouTubers were making videos about him. He had achieved what so many SoundCloud artists hope to achieve someday, and very few ever do. And after finishing off his world tour, he decided he would relocate to London, England, where he released the EP Goth Angel Sinner and his debut studio album called Call Me When You're Sober, Part 1. Call Me When You're Sober released on August 15th, 2017, and unfortunately he would pass away exactly 3 months later on the 15th of November 2017 due to an accidental fentanyl overdose. And I'm sure we've all seen that video on YouTube. I'm not going to clip it in because it's kind of hard to watch in a way, and it's sad. He was on his tour bus traveling to a show, doing a live stream. I think it was on Instagram, dropping blue bars in his mouth, one after the other, and it's really hard to watch, especially because you know what happens next. And toxicology reports claim that the bars were tainted with fentanyl, and I would like to take this moment to remind everybody out there that you can no longer trust bars or anything else you buy on the street like that unless you know the person with the script and you actually have the script. You have no way of knowing what's in them, and it's just really not that safe anymore to partake in scripts like that. If you're going to be messing around, I highly suggest you get fentanyl test strips. You can actually test your product for fent, and that can mean the difference between life and death. So seriously, go to a clinic and you can get them for free, man. You might as well. Why risk it? Now, he passed away on November 15th, 2017 in Tucson, Arizona. His very first performance was almost a year and a half ago to the day that he died in the same exact location of Tucson, Arizona. I'm not sure what that means, but it seems kind of coincidental or poetic in some way. I don't know. It has been said he was the Kurt Cobain of Gen Z. He had such an impact on pop culture and alternative music during the 2010s in the same way Nirvana completely shifted the 1990s. And honestly, you could still see his imprint on music today. Artists like Lil Uzi Vert, Post Malone, Juice WRLD, not to mention the other goth boy clique artists like Young Goth, who've all shown major influence from Peep. And every generation has their artist or artists who shaped the culture around them during their formative years. And Lil Peep was absolutely one of the leaders of that culture shift during the mid to late 2010s. Despite the fact he had practically no radio play, no Billboard Top 40 hits, one single tour, and only had a career spanning 3 years, which, side note, is almost the same amount of time that Nirvana was active. He still has 15 million monthly listeners on Spotify and has several posthumous releases, including Call Me When You're Sober Part 2, which achieved much critical acclaim as well. And anyway, this has been my 5-minute history of Lil Peep, and I'd like to stress again, if you're going to fuck around with street scripts, please get Fent test strips, and be safe. Much love. This is 5-minute history. I'm Young Death, signing off.